My dear friend, today we discuss Srimad Bhagavat Gita, chapter 2nd. When Arjun, who had sought refuge in Lord, asked about certain means of driving away his grief, the Lord described the truth about the self up to verse 30 in this chapter. In the practice of yoga of knowledge, the primary emphasis is laid on hearing as well as reflection and constant meditation on the truth about the self. Although after the 13th verse, through dissertation on Arjun, on duty, the character of yoga affection has also been dealt with this chapter. My dear, संजय उवाच तं तथा कृपयाविष्टं श्रुपुराकुलेक्षणम् विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः. Sanjay said, Shri Krishna then addressed the following word to Arjun, who was, as mentioned before, overwhelmed with pity, whose eyes were filled with tears and agitated, and who was full of sorrow. Here comment: the state of extreme dejection from which Arjuna suffered has been described in detail in the first chapter. The second chapter starts with the brief reference to that state when it says that Bhagavan Sri Krishna addressed to Arjun, who had been completely taken up by faint-heartedness, duty, commiseration for his friends and relations, whose disturbed eyes had been giving out profuse tears, and who was deeply merged in grief due to the fear of destruction of his family and of terrible sin that would occur from such destructions. Referring to Bhagavan Shri Krishna by the name Madhusudan means slaver of Madhu in this verse, and qualifying the word Vakyam word by idam. These Sanjay have a warning to Dhritarashtra. His intention was to point out that Bhagavan Sri Krishna had on the previous occasion killed the demon Madhu, who had been tyranning over the celestial that was both how he happened to be known as Madhusudan. It was that very Sri Krishna who encouraged and inspired downcast and unwilling Arjun with the following word to engage himself in fight. Under this circumstance, how could Dhritarashtra accept a victory for his son, who were as great tyrant as a demon Madhu, and especially when it was the Lord chosen mission to bring out the destruction of tyrant and persecutor. Therefore, Sanjay intended by implication to urge that those among Dhritarashtra's son and relative who had survived the fearful slaughter of 10 days could yet be saved in Dhritarashtra, could influence his son to make place with the Pandavas. Here Bhagavan Sri Krishna said, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastava Kasmalamidam Bhisame Samupastitam Anarya Justam Swaragyam Kirti Kararjunam. Sri Krishna Bhagavan said, Arjun, how was this infatuation overtaken you at this odd hours? It is shunned by noble souls, neither will it bring heaven nor fame to you. The word Kasmalam here described about the Kasmalam is an adjective word. Adjective idam in this verse indicate Arjun's heaviness of heart and low spirits due to infatuation. The Lord here administrator as snob to Arjun and expressing wonder asked how in that dangerous and difficult situation via on the battlefield where rejection and cowardliness were wholly out of place, and just at the moment when the battle was to commence, a hero and fighter like him, who was capable of easily vanquishing the greatest of Maharathi, should be overtaken by an unworthy and heartedness which was not at all accepted of him. Wherefrom did he get it? Calling this rejection and faint-heartedness of Arjun was as unworthy or noble, soul and calculated neither to lead to heaven nor to bring fame. With which Arjun was now overpowered, was not entertained by men possessed or nobility of character, and was not likely to lift Arjun to heaven or contribute to his fame. Out of the four objections of life, four out of the four objects of life, it would lead to fulfillment of none, neither of moksha means salvation, nor of dharma means virtue, nor of artha means wealth, nor of karma means enjoyment. So काम enjoyment. Therefore, possessed of a strong intellect as he was, how could Arjun be subject to such a depression of spirit as that odd hours on the battlefield, faced with imminent danger of clash of arm with very powerful adversary. Here Bhagavan Uvacha said, Kalaivyam masmagamah Arthana tatvayupapadyate Sudram hridaya daurvalyam Tayaktva utishta parantapa. Yield not to unmanliness. Arjun, ill does it become you, shaking off this paltry faint heartness? Stand up, O scorcher of enemies. The other name of Kunti, mother of the Pandavas, was Pritha. Kunti was a heroic mother. When Bhagavan Sri Krishna had gone to Hastinapur as a messenger of peace to try for a amicable settlement of the dispute between the Kaurava and Pandavas, and meet there his father's sister Kunti. The latter had sent through him a message full of sentiment of the most heroic type to her son Arjun. In that message, citing the instance of Vidul, had her son Sanjay, Kunti had encouraged Arjun to establish the calm of Pandavas over their kingdom by the arbitrament of war. Therefore, addressing Arjun a Pritha, Bhagavan Sri Krishna reminded Arjun of that message, worthy of a true Kshatriya mother, and intend to convey by the first half of verse that as a hero himself, Arjun was a worthy son of worthy mother, for whom it was quite out of place to be overcome by unmanliness and cowardice, possessed as he was of incomparable valor and skill as a fighter, which invariably struck terror into the heart of greatest of heroes, and journal to what a sad plight he had brought himself, he here standing on end. face, dropping and trembling the Gandiva about to drop from his hard hand, and the mind merged in grief, quite perplexed and confused. This unmanliness and faint heartedness was never worthy of him. He who scorcher the foe by your virulence of attack is called a Parantapa. Here, the man's intention of addressing Arjun as Parantapa is remind him of his fame as a scorcher of foe, being the vanquisher of extremely powerful demon like the Nivatattva and other. How could he now adopt such an attitude? The cowardice and unmanliness, which were the rivals of what a Kshatriya should possess and would thus delight the heart of his enemies instead of terrifying them as before. By asking Arjun to shake off this paltry faint-heartedness and stand up, the Lord shows that in the heart of hero like Arjun, there should be no place for pusillanimity, which is invariably rejected by heroes, and it entertained only by cowards who feel scared at the sight of battle. Therefore, the Lord urged him to throw it off immediately and prepare and harden himself for the fight. Here, Arjun said, Arjun uvacha katham bhismaham sankhaye dronam cha madhusudana yisuvi pratyutsami ujaraha varisudana. Arjun said, how, Krishna, shall I fight Bhishma and Drona with our arrow on the battlefield? They are worthy of deepest reverence, O destroyer of foe. Who had been tyrannizing over the celestial addressing the Lord as a slaver of Madhu and destroyer of foe, and using the word Katham, how? Arjun expressed his surprise. His intention is to show that Bhishma and Drona, with whom the Lord was encouraging him to fight, were neither demon nor enemies. On the other hand, they were very respected elder under the some circumstance. How did the Lord, contrary to his nature, exhort Arjun to fight his elder? How could Arjun involve himself in the commission of this the dreadful sin? By using the word Ishubhi. Arjun means to show that the elder against who is used for even light word was considered as the great sin. How could he range himself against them in the fight with sharp arrows? He therefore wondered how Bhagavan Sri Krishna, exhorted him to do what appeared to him to an utterly sinful action. Arjun said with sorrow sound, Guru nahatva hi mahanubhavan Shreyo bhoktum bhayachya pahi piyaloke Hatvartha kamastu guru nihaiva Bhoji bhunji bhogan rudir pradigdhana. It is better to live on alms in this world without slaying on this noble elder, because even after killing them, we shall after the all enjoy only blood stained pleasure in the form of wealth and sense enjoyment. The word Guru with the adjective Mahanubhavan pointed to teacher like Dwachar and Kripachar, and elderly relation like Bahalika, Bhishma, Somadatta, Bhuru Usarva, and Shailya, etc., who were all noble in character, posted in the army of Duryodhana. By using the indeclinable api after the word bhaksham, it is indicate the though it was considered dishonorable for a Kshatriya to live on alms, such a livelihood was indeed better than the enjoyment of the pleasure of kingship obtained through the massacre of noble elder who were object of reverence and respect. By using the adjective Rudhir Pradigdham and Arthakaman and the indeclinable Iva after the noun Bhogan, Arjun compare by implication the value of the life of those noble elders with what a would actually gain by the most reprehensible action of killing them. He would gain neither salvation nor merit through the act, but only wealth and sense enjoyment, which were valueless as a compare to live on those elder. And these too the would again as the fruit of slaughter of those elder, and therefore they would be as it stand with their blood. In his opinion, therefore, killing elder for obtaining such pleasures and enjoyment could never be neat and proper. Some commenters has taken the word earth common as an attribute of Gurun, but this doesn't appear to us to be a proper interpretation, inasmuch as Arjun has spoken of this elder in this very verse as noble, and he could not be expected to speak of them in the same breath as obsessed by greed by for wealth. The two attributes being naturally contradictory, we have therefore choose the interpret earth common as we have done. Here Arjun said, "Na चैतद्विध्य कतरन्नो गर्यो यदा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयु यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषामस्ते वस्थिता परमुखे धार्तराष्ट्रा." We do not even know which is preferable for us, to fight or not to fight, not to do. We know whether we shall win or whether they will conquer us. Those very soon of the last killing whom we do not even wish to live, stand in the enemy rank by saying we don't know which is preferable for us. Arjuna indicates that he was not in a position of decide whether it was better for him to fight or to refrain from fight. For while on the other hand it was the laid down as the duty of Kshatriya to fight, the destruction on the other hand of the family and race as a result of such a fight was also declared as an evil and a sin. Again, when Arjun say, "Not do we know whether we shall win or they will conquer us," he means that it was held that it was the better to fight. He was unaware whether crown of victory would belong to his side or would be wrested from his hand by his adversaries. Arjun said, कार्पण दोषहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि ध्वाम धर्म समूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयस्यानिश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शेषस्ते अहं साधिमा त्वां प्रपन्नम्. With my very being tended by the voice of faith, her tenderness and my mind puzzled with regard to duty, I am asking you, tell me that which is decidedly good. I am your despised. Pray instruct me, who have put myself into your hands. The word Karpanya is a abstract noun. Karpanya is a abstract noun derived from the adjective kirpyan, which convey virtue, various meaning. First, a miser who even though possessing abundant wealth doesn't like, owing to excessive greed and attachment for wealth, to spend even a farthing either in charity or in satisfying the legitimate need of himself or of his depend in a kripana. Second, main object of human life as pointed out by the scripture and declared by saint, who are the saviors of humanity, is realization of God through attainment of knowledge about the reality of God. He who forgetting this primary goal of existence wastes his life only in enjoying sense object, that man of feeble intellect is also called Kirpana. The Shruti says, Yo va etadacharam garya viditva samallokat pareti sa kripana and kripa. Gargi, whoever depart from this earth without knowing God in imperishable is a kripana. Gargi, whoever departs from his earth without knowing God, the imperishable, is a kirpana. The Lord too called in the Gita men attached to worldly enjoyment and power, seeking the fruit of action as kripana. Third, one with a wretched and miserable state of mind is also in a general sense designated as a kripana. Karpanya complained of by Arjun was neither of the nature of miserableness produced by greedy nor attachment to worldly enjoyment. For Arjuna was by nature an extremely generous and charitable man and a master of his sense. In the Gita itself, he clearly states that he covered neither victory nor kingdom nor pleasure for his own sake. Those relations of him or whom these things were needed were arrived before him to lay down their lives. He didn't want to kill Duryodhan and other relations, even for the sovereignty of the three world. How then for his earth? Chapter 1, verse 32 and 35. Undisputed sovereignty over the entire earth and lordship over the God couldn't drive away his grief. Chapter 2, verse 8. He who was prepared to sacrifice too much could neither be miserly by nature, nor attached to worldly enjoyment. Besides, interpretation of the word in this sense doesn't fit in a context here. Kripan by which Arjun was possessed was a sort of lowness of spirits which expressed itself in the form of faith, her tenderness and grief mixed up with compassion. And Sanjay, in the first verse of the chapter, refer to this very state of Arjuna. When he spoke of the latter as overwhelmed with pity in verse 3 of this chapter, the Lord used the word unmanliness to describe this very state of Arjuna. All these clearly indicate that the Karpanya of Arjuna was nothing but faint-heartedness coupled with compassion, produced by the fear of loss of his kith and kin. As an ideal Kshatriya fighter, Arjuna was by his very nature a hero. Cowardliness of spirit was a weakness in this case. To whatever cause it might be attributed, therefore, Arjuna called it in verse as a voice of faint-heartedness. On account of this faint-heartedness, Arjuna, very nature as a Kshatriya, adored with such qualities as valor, prowess, firmness, adroitness, and courage, had been vitiated. That is why his very limbs were giving way. The mouth was perched, and frame was shaking. The skin appeared to burning all over, and mind was puzzled and reeling as it were. Observing this mark of weakness in him, which were quite opposed to his nature, appearing as the result of his unmanliness of spirit, Arjun say in this verse, my very being has been tended by the voice of faint-heartedness. He whose mind had become wholly, wholly incapable of ascertaining what is virtue and what is vice, what is duty and what is interdicted, is called one whose mind is puzzled with regard to that duty. The mind of Arjuna at this time was in the state of terrible confusion with regard to his duty from the point of view of protection of subjects, the duty of Kshatriya and vindication of the rightful calm. He considered what to be righteous duty and thought it advisable to engage in the fight. While on the other hand, unmanly spirit that had now taken possession of his, unfolding to the mind, his mind the various dreadful effect of the war, was trying to force him to take up the profession of the beggar, adopt sannyas, and retire to the forest. Adopted sannyas and retired to forest. The mind, upset by the compassion, didn't allow the intellect to function freely and come to a decision, and finding himself entirely puzzled and perplexed, Arjun expressed himself as above. The words tell me what is decidedly good should not be interpreted to mean that Arjun was frightened at the sight of the very powerful Kaurava army, protected by such invincible and world-renowned heroes and fighters as Bhishma, Drona, Kripachar, etc. An army much larger than that of the Pandavas, and despairing of the victory, approached the Lord of the definite light as whether I would be good for him fight, or to retire from the battle with a view to ascertaining whether victory or defeat would follow. His footstep here, the predominant sentiment of his heart was affection and tenderness for friends and relations. There were again the fear of sin that would attach to him as the result of the destruction of friend and relation, which might be great obstacle to his attainment of the supreme good as opposed to his. There was also the slow string of thought that renunciation renunciation on his part of the recognized duty of Kshatriya to engage in the right race war might also be wrong and might prove the hind race to attainment of supreme good. That is why he wanted to know what was decidedly good. His question, therefore, had no relation with victory or defeat in war. Its object was to learn what the conducive to supreme good in the form of God realization. In short, Arjun here say, Lord, I have wholly lost my capacity to ascertain what is my duty. Pray tell me defiantly how I can attain the supreme good. Arjun was Bhagavan Sri Krishna, dear friend. Spiritually speaking, the might have been of different level, but in practical life, the relation between Arjun and Sri Krishna was in almost all places that of qualities, while dining, reposing in bed or going from the place to another. Bhagavan Sri Krishna used to show the same consideration to Arjun as a bestowed on his own self. And Arjun also, for his part, reciprocated that sentiment of quality and friendship, though maintaining in this heart deep reverence and respect for Sri Krishna, a spiritual superiority, but now finding himself in the most deplorable state of mind. Arjun felt that he was not fit and maintain equality with Sri Krishna. Between two equal, their mind be exchange of advice and counsel, but no instruction as from a superior to the inferior. There might be promoting and suggestion, but no command. Arjun realized the suggestion and advice would not help him at that stage to get out of the mental route. What is needed was a true guide and teacher who would command him to follow the certain path and driving out of all his grief and infatuation would help him to attain supreme good. Who could be better guide to him than Sri Krishna, but the sower of nectar in the form of Guru? Instruction fell only when the soil of the disciple heart was ready to receive it. Therefore, Arjun now say, Lord, I am your disciple. There are many types of disciple. The disciple who, after receiving instruction from the Guru, depend on self-effort, centered in the ego, and look at other sources of the help than that of the Sadguru, can't derive true benefit from the grace of the Guru. Therefore, along with the declaration of his discipleship, Arjun take up the attitude of exclusive surrender and say, Lord, I am not only your disciple, but I have also taken refuge in you. Root of the word prapanna means surrender of the self to God, knowing the realizing Him to be the repository of all power and highest being. The term is synonymous with the taking refuge in the Lord, throwing the self and Lord feet and offering the self to God. The spirit of prapanna is truly cultivated when one completely and for all time throw oneself the Lord of enchanting face without a twinkle in the eye and with the mind constantly engaged in the thought of God from the exclusive desire of always acting and the mere puppet in his hand. His belief on the one hand that God is almighty, omniscient, the knower of the heart and the endless ocean of unnumberable virtue and the supreme master, the infinite repository of the greatness. Love, valor, virtue, knowledge, non-attachment, etc. That the remove all the affliction, cycle of karma, and every form of doubt and error. The dearest lover and the dearest friend, the dearest relation, the supreme guide and the supreme divinity, and regard himself and the other as standing alone in the world, utterly helpless and without any support, devoid of intelligence, lacking on the strength, lacking in the substance, and depending thoroughly and exclusive on the God, help, support, knowledge, support, power, and the uncomparable affection for the duty, who take refuge in him. Arjun's desire was developed such an attitude of surrender to the Lord, and inspired by the feeling, he now said, Lord, I am your disciple. Pray, instruct me, who have taken refuge in you. When this idea of true surrender to God, the best and most perfect follower of the spiritual insight, would develop into true surrender under the influence of the most esoteric teaching of Lord contained in the verse 65 and 66 of the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna would be prepared to the carry out of the behest of the Lord without any question. The Gita itself would reach in the conclusion. Thus the sadhana of the Gita. Comments from the verse. The seed is own. Here is the beginning of the Gita, gospel, and the sadhana would be reached it. Consummation, when the Lord would exhort Arjuna to surrender all duty to him, their line is a nature conclusion of the Gita.